Hi, my name is Cody. Today we're going to talk about the greater Roadrunner in the Feathers and Scales building. So, in the exhibit here, it's a desert exhibit, and we have three species in here. We have white-winged doves and gamble quail, but one of the species that gets the most attention is a greater Roadrunner. A greater Roadrunner here is a male. And he's a pretty neat bird because they're super quick. They run about
He ran away.
20 to 25 miles an hour when they're really going after something. They're not known really to be flyers. They're specially made because of the way their body's made. They've got really heavy legs, so they don't fly very far. And these guys are super quick. They kind of hunt through, they'll eat lizards, small birds, insects. They've also been known to actually hunt and eat small rattlesnakes. These guys are usually found in the southwestern United States, all the way up into Oklahoma, all the way over to California, down into Mexico. And they're specially made for arid climates. They don't need a lot of water. They get a lot of their water from the animals they eat, and they are able to absorb a lot and hold the water inside them relatively easy. They're also able to secrete salt, which is usually only common for shorebirds. And in the wild, there's usually going to be a male and a female. And they will get a territory that's usually about 700 meters and defend it, and that's where they'll nest. They usually don't nest very high up, and it's kind of neat because the males grab the nesting material, hand it to the females, and the females can either accept it or reject it. And it takes about, and they usually, it depends where they're from, breeding starts about March, and it's not uncommon during about March, April, May. People that live in the southwestern United States will see the males trying to court their reflection in the mirror. They get super interested in breeding that they'll actually walk up to you and try to court you. Usually it consists of trying to give you some food. Our male will regularly try to feed us a mouse.
Oh my gosh.
And
doesn't matter where I go. He runs away from me.
He's super quick. This is usually pretty common. They run around all over the exhibit, especially now since he's currently trying to look for a female. Unfortunately, we don't have one right now. And he will run around looking for all kinds of females. He'll look for food. Usually here at the zoo, we'll feed him mice, crickets, big worms, and he really enjoys it. We'll actually toss the crickets in the exhibit. He'll try to look for them. It's not unusual for him to try to court one of our female Gamble's quail. He'll actually feed them because right now he's so focused on a female. And he tries to build a nest usually even though there's no one here, and he does a pretty good job. And usually he'll get super interested in everything that we try to give him. And he's pretty quick, and he'll do all kinds of, and he's really vocal too. So the cartoons that we're used to seeing certain generation of what a Roadrunner looks like, he doesn't look like that at all, but they do make the sound very similar of the beep beep sound. And if you look at him real close, he's made to live in kind of an arid place. The colorization, that tail, that super long tail is actually a rudder, because when he's going about 20 miles an hour, 25, he needs to find a way to steer really quick.
How fast can you run?
You can run about 20 miles per hour. They've also been known to about, when they're really looking, needing to, they can run up to 25.
So I mentioned this before we started filming, but I was really surprised at how graceful his flight is when he's going up onto the branch and down from the branch. Are they known for being flighted birds, or do they spend most of their time on the ground?
They'll spend most of their time on the ground. They'll actually get up into trees to roost. They'll get into trees for nesting, but they're really known for ground runners. They'll actually spend a lot of the day on the ground. On hot days, you'll actually find them doing sunbathing, which is kind of a way for a bird to warm up, but it's also a way for them to get sun in their feathers to kind of help with microbial growth, any kind of parasites on the feathers. So yeah, the majority of their day is spent on the ground, but they do fly. And the reason why they're not the best flyers is because their legs and their tail, especially their legs are super adapted for speed, so they're pretty heavy. And so they're not really able to go for very long distances.
What other kinds of things would they eat in the wild?
So they'll eat pretty much anything they can get their mouth on, and that includes rattlesnakes. They'll eat baby birds, they'll eat lizards, any kind of insect is fine. And it's actually been seen for them, a female and a male, to actually work together to try to kill and consume little rattlesnakes.
So for anybody who joined late, do you want to tell us why he's running back and forth like this?
He's running back and forth because it's not uncommon during breeding season. This is what they do. They run all over the exhibit. He flies up in the air. And a lot of it has to do with nesting, breeding, looking for food. We feed him all kinds of mice and crickets, but I mean, they spend a lot of time running, and so he'll run all over the exhibit trying to look for things to grab, food, stuff like that.
Why does he kind of flick his tail up and down?
He flicks his tail. It's just a reaction that they do. A lot of birds do kind of odd little flicks of stuff. Some of them will shake their heads a little bit. Others will do that. And he uses his tail, and he moves around a lot, trying to flick it and stuff. You know, right now he's cleaning his face.
How many coyotes has he outsmarted?
How many coyotes? I don't know. They're pretty interesting. They're not known for their intelligence. They're known for being quick, and really good hunters. And so they'll regularly hunt pretty much anything they can get their mouth on. And the one thing that we always got to keep an eye on is our quail. We can't raise the quail in here, because if we did, he would quickly try to eat the babies. He's perfectly fine with adults, but with some of the baby quail, we'll actually raise them off exhibit because he may try to grab them.
So what kinds of natural predators does a roadrunner have?
You know, a lot of the predators they have is other raptors, like Harrison hawks. Also, ravens have been known to go after their young, coyotes, stuff like that. But they're pretty much, other than a few exceptions, they're kind of the top predator in their area. A lot of mammals that we have here can't catch them. And so when they're adults, when they're pretty safe, but it's the youngsters that always they have to protect, because it's not uncommon for a raven or a crow or a group of Harrison hawks to actually grab their eggs in their nest. And they usually lay about 3 to 6 eggs, and that's a lot of roadrunners.
Oh my gosh. So are they endangered?
No, they're pretty common in most areas that they're around. They're not endangered. I've actually seen many times in Oklahoma, in Texas, Kansas, Arizona. So they're really common, but it's a species that people are always surprised seeing, because we've always kind of been raised to look at them like they're taller and they're maybe a different color. So it's been, every time someone sees them here, they always get super interested, because they're never what people expect.
He's really fun to watch. What other noises do roadrunners make, besides kind of the beeping noise?
They make a bunch of really neat things, and when he's really trying to court, he'll actually put his tail up, lower his body, open his wings and make almost like a grunting sound. And he's usually, since there is no females, it's not uncommon for male in the wild and in under human care for the males to try to court their keepers or other animals. And so we regularly see it during March, April, into May that he's trying to court us. And he makes this grunting noise that you'll hear, and he raises his tail, lower his body, bow. They'll bow their heads towards a female. And usually there's a piece of food in there or a piece of nesting material.
And you know, just from being in here filming other birds, I've heard the grunt, and it's really surprising that it's coming out of such a small bird because it's really, really loud. So if you're in here and you hear like a rasping grunting noise, come over and see if it's the Roadrunner.
Yeah, and they're able to really kind of make really deep calls because, I mean, their body's made for inhaling a lot of oxygen because they have to run for long mid distances. And so they are very, because of what they've developed to go really fast, it's able to also give out a really distinct loud call.
What other birds is it related to?
They're actually a cuckoo. So their scientific name is also, it also means the California Earth Runner. And these guys are related to most of the cuckoos out there, like yellow-billed cuckoos, black-billed cuckoos. There's also another species of roadrunner called the lesser roadrunner that's in Central and South America, which looks very similar, but they're just a lot smaller, and they actually will crossbreed, but because they do have distinct areas that they both occupy.
Do we have a share the care for the Roadrunner?
I'm not sure if we do have a share the care for the Roadrunner. It's one that is very popular, so I can see it being very interesting because it's one of the species that a lot of kids and a lot of families come to see is the Roadrunner because he is a pretty interesting bird. So, thank you very much for coming out and letting me talk to you about our greater Roadrunner. We appreciate it, and hopefully you guys are safe and happy. Thank you very much.